There are strange tanks in World of Tanks, and this is most certainly one of the weirdos in the game. It is of course the M5Y. It's yet to make an appearance on console, but we will hopefully be seeing this bad boy in the game. Regardless, this video is showcasing what this thing can do on World of Tanks PC, and of course it is played by President Rick. He has managed to obtain this monstrosity. The key thing about this vehicle is that it has pretty much everything that you need from a whole down monster, and effectively if you can get hold down in this thing, then you're going to be able to outperform a lot of the other medium tanks, a lot of the heavy tanks with good turrets. You're still going to be able to outperform them. Yes, there are a few weak points on the turret. There is of course this cupola here, but it's super hard to hit, and I believe you can hit underneath in here if you're looking up into the turret, but there's no real amazing weak points in this vehicle apart from the hull armor. I mean, you get penned by pretty much everyone if they can manage to hit that, but regardless, the Batchat manages to bounce off of it, and he places a nice round into the Batchat, and of course straight away you are seeing the track mechanic of the M5Y and all of these Yo vehicles in World of Tanks, and that is that you can get your first track damage, but then you can of course repair your kind of track whilst also moving at a reduced speed, which makes it so fun to actually play. You can see here advancing against the Lorraine 50T here, who decides he's going to actually look at another opponent, the TNH here, whilst President Rick decides he's going to plow rounds into the side of him. Of course, easy target and everything like that. Now, he's picked up 2,500 damage, or thereabouts, and he's going to pick up another extra damage, of course, setting the Lorraine on fire, but automatic fire extinguisher puts that hope of finalising the rest of the damage away. But nonetheless, an amazing start to the game. Taking the dip on live oaks is something that you really want to do, especially if you have turret armor, because you can use it to great effect. Now, we're about to see the one weak point of some of these tanks, and it's of course the cupola. Now, this vehicle that he's looking at is of course the TN9 in the Yo tank line, and of course you saw the two main weak points, the upper hull armor and also the cupolas of these vehicles. Luckily, this one only has one cupola that can really be penned. You could probably pen this, but it's very minor, and you're not really going to have a problem with that. But you'll notice that the damage has been racking up quite a lot, and fairly easily as well. Within this replay, it definitely doesn't stop here, and hence why it's showcased in the best replays on World of Tanks video playlist that we've got. So if you want to check out more, I really do implore you to have a look at some of the best replays that we've got for World of Tanks PC. It's an exclusive playlist, blah blah blah, that you can have a look at. But regardless of that, the key things I want to talk about this tank, for those of you that may not know, is that it gets 440 alpha, which is why he's been able to rack up damage pretty quickly. Now, the reload, the base reload, is about 10.5 seconds, so you're looking at fairly okay damage per minute. I believe somewhere in the region of about like 3 and a bit thousand DPM, maybe just shy of 3,000. But nonetheless, a really amazing start to the game, being able to just pump out this damage. And the key thing about this vehicle, being that it is not the fastest, 40 kilometers an hour top speed in this vehicle, you have to be good at positioning, and that is what President Rick is doing well. And of course, remember, on World of Tanks, you have to use your tank's strengths and advantages to outplay people. A lot of the time, it's your knowledge of the tank that you're playing, the tank that the opponents are playing against you, and of course your map knowledge, which is the key thing. And there is no other tank really that can utilize the kind of hill areas that this vehicle can, or at least in the kind of scale that this one can, other than things like the Kranvang, which of course you can see by pretty much everyone. But yeah, the Kranvang is just a different breed, but nonetheless the M5Y by no means is super overpowered or anything like that, because at the end of the day, as soon as it gets away from that hold down position, it doesn't have a whole lot going for it, because it gets penned every single time, and the reload isn't that great to really make it great in open scenarios or open terrain. But It's not really what you want to be doing with the M5Y. You want to be playing it like a Ridgeline Warrior, and that is where it comes in best. So the map knowledge, everything that you know about World of Tanks, whereby you can constantly position yourself in somewhere where you're able to get yourself in a hold down position is where it's going to be beneficial for you. Now you can see him ploughing rounds into the sides of tanks, which is of course exactly what you want to be doing. Now you'll see that he's been firing a lot of standard rounds in this vehicle at the beginning of the game. You also note that these standard rounds are APCR, which is probably my favourite round in World of Tanks, albeit, you know, maybe not when you're coming up against E100 turrets where heat is your best friend. But nonetheless, you're seeing here him just pausing, waiting for the shot to open up. You need to do that with this vehicle because you can't just be shooting willy-nilly. You need to make your hits count, especially considering when the enemy team are up by about 4,000 hit points at this point. So really important that he's hitting every single shot and that he's supporting his teammates at the kind of mid stage of the game / later half. And now within this replay, 7,000 damage has already been done, which is pretty amazing really, considering he's kind of pushed the flank, and you're kind of at a bit of a stalemate here where moving forward can be difficult because you have this kind of scenario where you've got TDs and you've got unknown tanks literally sat probably fapping in these bushes over here. You've also got a Manticore that's just appeared out of nowhere from behind that he needs to reposition himself for, but doesn't want to move away from this house all too much because you never know what's going to be coming. But what you can count on is the RNG to go on your side, as you'd expect from one of the best replays in World of Tanks, and that of course happens in pretty much all of these replays. 9 times out of 10 that would have just been a standard shot, or you would have somehow bounced off of the Manticore, but only the best replays where the RNG seems to go your way. But you can see the E100 here just ploughing rounds still back into him. There's not much the E100 can do here since he's pinned down from the front, and if he moves away from there he's going to get hit by them. So you know, it's a lose-lose for the E100, but regardless, you can see President Rick is taking advantage of that, and that's exactly what you want when you're trying to go for the 10k mark. As soon as you start reaching that, you really do start sweating your tits off, to be honest, for lack of a better word. But you can see here the WZ has landed 2 successful hits, which is probably triggering slightly. Super Conqueror manages to fully track this vehicle, which is annoying, but nonetheless you can see the double track icon straight in the middle of the screen, showcasing that there are 2 tracks, and of course when you get one of them knocked out the other one goes and stuff like that. But the problem he's having here is that the enemy team have kind of pushed round both flanks, so you're seeing that the waffle is somewhere in this region over here. He just gets spotted there, and you can see him plough a nice APCR round into him. Now if he had intuition, it may have been worth it to actually load your HE rounds that are left, because you don't have all too many standard rounds and you have no idea, well, you have a rough idea as to the health of the remaining tanks in the Super Conqueror, and also this medium, the Type 61. Now going for a couple of blind fires, kind of risky at this point in the game, especially considering you've only got 5 rounds left. Now, I'm not criticising, I'm just highlighting the fact that in a normal game, when you're not under pressure and you haven't managed to do over 10,000 damage and you're pushing for the 11 or 12,000 damage game in a vehicle that doesn't typically make it to the 12,000 club on the What Replay site, you know, it's really, really amazing, and of course that's what you want to be doing in these vehicles. But nonetheless, you can see here a very more passive approach to the mid to late stage in the game. You have to kind of do that with this vehicle, because once you've used up the positions where you have the hill areas, then your tank becomes a little less desirable and a lot less mobile and stuff like that, that you can't really go out and do all too much. And especially when you're only boasting 390 hit points approximately, you're going to be able to be taken out by literally the rest of the enemy team. So yeah, it's very dangerous to be kind of pushing on your own. You're kind of relying on your teammates here, the Progetto over here, and that's kind of how you have to play this vehicle in the mid to late stages, as more of a support role, not necessarily pure damage dealer. That's kind of how this vehicle is typically played in the mid to late stages. Of course, you want to still be outputting damage as and when you can, especially in things like the broadside of a Super Conqueror, which no one is going to be complaining about. And he places a few nice rounds into him. sort of thing you want to be doing. You see him hold off. You don't want to be firing any willy-nilly shots when you've only got one actual heat round left. Oh, absolute nightmare. Fires a little bit too low into the Super Conqueror's tracks, and of course it's never going to go well. Now what you see him do here is waiting. Now, not necessarily the best shot on the Super Conqueror, kind of hit the tracks there, but nonetheless he can now progress towards the Type 61, who he may actually be able to pen. The Type 61 appears to be on full health as well at the end of the game, and his team are on literally the exact same hit points, so it's a bit of a stalemate. Of course, the one thing that you definitely don't want to be doing in World of Tanks is going in one by one, and the projector is now moving up, and so you're seeing President Rick here kind of move towards the town area. We have no idea where he is. He's not been spotted all game. Is he sat in the cap circle? He is not, because effectively he's got 4 kills, so he's obviously someone that knows how to play World of Tanks, so you've got to be a little bit careful comparing your gameplay to more of an aggressive approach that some people may take in this sort of stage. You don't want to be leaving your teammates high and dry, and now that the Type 61 is actually spotted, I don't know that President Rick decides that he is here, but you can see here down here that the Type 61 is available. Now you see him go to the enemy cap. I think he's trying to secure the victory regardless. You can see the projectile finishes off the Type 61, and that is the end of the replay. A really amazing round, able to pick up over 11,000 damage with some blind fires potentially within this replay. But of course we will have a full look at this vehicle later on, and the results screen in just a second. But yeah, the key things you want to be noting is of course this big cupola, or somewhat big cupola if you're looking down into it, but remember, when this thing's using the gun depression you pretty much can't see that cupola whatsoever. And of course the hull armor being boat shaped, when it is on top of a hill you're kind of looking up into it, it's very easy to bounce off, and so this tank becomes a monster. But remember, this thing high and dry out in the open is a little bit of a devastating kind of feast for some of the higher DPM vehicles like mediums and stuff like that, so beware in World of Tanks about that. So we hop back over to the What Replay screen. If you want to just go ahead and watch some other gameplay and tank reviews, then of course check out the playlist on the left hand side at the end of this video, and of course in the description down below you'll find the World of Tanks PC replays playlist if you want to watch some more. But essentially what you can see here is the 11,300 damage game that President Rick was able to have. Of course, no one surprised that the Ace Tanker badge goes his way with the Bruiser, Arsonist, Fighter and Fire for Effect and Confederate Medal. 183,000 silver earned, 4,500 XP and some bonds as well. So what does this actually feature? Well, of course, coming top on the team with 1,491 experience, doubling, well, not doubling, but basically nearly 3 times the damage that anyone else on his team did, and of course nearly the same amount of damage as the rest of his team combined, if not the same, which is amazing for one singular player. And of course it did lose money in the game, which is a little bit sad to see, but the premium ammunition fired from having to fire it after performing so well with 45 shots fired and basically nothing left in the clip. There's no surprise, but nonetheless, really amazing replay. And of course, thank you very much for President Rick for uploading it. If you want to check out those replays, they are on screen right now, which will showcase both the playlist and the latest gameplay review video for World of Tanks PC if you're interested in that. Hopefully you did enjoy this video, and of course if you want to see more, don't forget to subscribe, check out some of the other videos and decide if you like it. I hope I'll join you in the next one, and goodbye.